Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Brent, and today we found this Chevy Caprice that's been sitting in this barn for the last 20 years, and even furthermore hasn't been washed in the last 25. And the story behind this find is that the owner stored it in his barn about 20 years ago after having driven it for quite a while. But sadly, he passed away a few weeks ago, and his son Steve reached out to us wanting to pull it out of the barn and see if we could start the process of bringing it back to life and giving it a second chance, as it's something he knows would make his dad proud. Now, for the question of the video, as you'll see as we get further into the detail, this car definitely needs a decent amount of work, both cosmetically and mechanically, just to get it back on the road. So, if you were in Steve's position, what would you do with the car? Would you sell it? Would you fix it up? Would you store it or something else? Leave a comment below. And also, while we're pulling this car out, make sure you guys take a second and subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos, because we have a lot of cool stuff coming up. But by no means was this detail easy whatsoever. It was very gratifying, and you could see that smile on Steve's face as the car was getting pulled out. But without any further ado, I'm going to throw it over to RJ and Steve to get a deeper dive on this car.
Today we're here with Steve, who is allowing us to detail his 70s Caprice. What year is it exactly?
76.
76 Caprice. It's got a pretty cool backstory. It was actually your dad's, right?
Yeah.
And he's recently just passed away. So our condolences from us to you. But we feel privileged that we have the opportunity to go ahead and detail it, because it's clearly seen. I'm sure it saw a lot of life before it got parked, and it definitely saw a lot of life after the fact. I don't know if that's goose poop or what type of animal feces it is, but it's something. And between the mud and dust, it's a perfect candidate for one of our videos. But how long has it been sitting?
Roughly 20 years.
20 years. So I think we saw the plate. It was last plated in 1999. So yeah, 22 years, somewhere in that range.
The last time it ran was about 10. It pulled out on its own, went back same day. I don't remember why I was pulled out. I was only like 8 years old.
Gotcha. So you this is the second time that you've only seen it outside pretty much in your whole entire life.
Yep.
That's wild. And the story behind your father getting this car is kind of funny too, isn't it?
Oh yeah, he was out in PA visiting family, and his truck burned down. So he kind of got stranded, and a family member sold him this car for $2,000 back in the day.
It's probably worth $2,000 in scrap with how massive it is. And, I mean, the doors alone weigh like 500 pounds. So even $2,000 back in the day. And these have had a resurgence in not like any used car right now, but these Caprices in particular, in good condition, which this one's not in too bad a shape, some surface rust here and there, but aside from that, integrally, it looks, it's a good candidate to be cleaned up.
Oh yeah.
Some of these cars that we find, they're too far gone, and we have to pass on them, because there's just only, we're not miracle workers. We can clean stuff, but we can't.
Right. You can't buff a 1 foot hole out of a fender.
Yeah, exactly. But no, that's really cool. Do you ever actually remember riding in this car? No,
not at all.
Gotcha. So your goal is to fix it up and make your dad proud, and get it back on the road.
This and the remaining few in the barn, get them all out.
That's awesome. Yeah, his mom was just telling us a story of how they had issues with the radiator, and it broke down the street, and his dad had to go and run into the woods and fish water out of the creek and bring it back to pour it in the radiator, cool it down, and get her the rest of the way home. So she's seen a lot of life, and like I said, we're excited to give her a new lease on her next life.
Of course. All right. Well,
sweet. Thanks,
you guys
Steve,
for coming out.
Yeah, of course. All right, let's get to it.
So quickly taking a look over this car before hopping into the detail, as you can tell, it was just covered in both dirt, dust, mud. There was even animal feces on top of it, and I'm not talking little stuff. It was from what Steve thinks might have been barn cats, foxes, bigger animals. So it was definitely an interesting detail, to say the least. And after that, moving on toward the interior, the entire thing was pretty much covered in mold, from the steering wheel to the door panels, all that stuff. So we had a lot of work ahead of us that we had to take care of, but in the end, it made a really good detail. It didn't turn out 100% perfect like we had hoped it would, but for what it was, it's definitely a lot better. It made it a lot safer for them to start working on this car and get it back on the road if they want to do so. But either way, leave a comment down below if you guys think that you could handle this detail, because it was quite literally one of the worst cars that we've seen condition-wise in a very long time. taking a quick look at this front end, as you could tell underneath that dirt, there's also some rust. And from what Steve told me, I believe that rusted because his father had placed hay bales on the paint, and he also put, I think, carpets on it that got wet. And if obviously they get wet and sit over time, it's eventually going to start rusting the paint no matter what happens. So that's not something that we were able to 100% fix, but as you'll see with the polishing and stuff, we were able to make it look significantly better. But that is something that in the future, if Steve wants to, he's going to have to probably get the entire thing repainted. But for what we were able to do, it definitely helped a lot. And moving on to the wheels, it's usually not the best idea to try pumping up a tire after 20 years, but Steve wanted to give it a shot and see what would happen. And when we went to clean them, you'll see that they had some pretty massive leaks. So they were slowly deflating while we were cleaning them, but all in all, he's obviously going to have to replace them anyways. But we threw it in the video just because. And now you guys can really see what I meant earlier when I said that the paint was severely damaged with rust. So we still went ahead and we polished it, which we're not going to damage the paint any more than it already is. If anything, we're just going to rip up our own pads, which we did, but they were pads that we were just going to throw away afterwards anyways and get new ones. But we still want to give it our best effort for you guys and for Steve, and that's what we did. So we polished the entire thing. The sides of the car were in great condition. It was mostly just the hood and the trunk that weren't. But leave a comment below if you guys were in our position, what you would have done. Now moving on to the interior, as you guys could tell, this thing was destroyed, and we wanted to pull out the seat bench in the front, but when we went to take out all the bolts, one of them was completely stuck in, and in order to get it out, we would have had to break it completely, and we decided not to do that because when they go to work on the car, it's probably best that we just leave it alone. So we went ahead and cleaned around it, and we still did a really good job with it. It did make the angles a little bit harder to get for video purposes, but other than that, we were still able to get the car completely clean.